Okay, this is my fourth video. I'm doing this one right after the last one about the afterlife. This is going to be my toughest video to do. I've had these thoughts for a while. I need to share them. I've been writing a book that I don't know if I'll get it published or not. Not trying to be negative or anything like that. It's just I've had little luck getting published. And I haven't had much luck getting books of any kind of length that people would want to publish. They have all these requirements. And I've been hesitant because what I'm about to discuss, it's very controversial, it's very offensive, it could cause a lot of problems. But it needs to come out, and I need to, even at the risk of my parents someday seeing this and being hurt, I need to get this out. But I will start with a warning before I continue. If you are a Christian, you should make sure that your faith is very strong before you listen to this. The only reason to listen to this video, if you are a Christian or of any kind of Christian, any extension of the Christian faith, of any kind, from Jehovah's Witness to Catholic to whatever it might be, the only reason to listen to this is because you have questions and you have doubts and you are wondering about things and you're seeking answers. Otherwise, stay away. Don't watch this video. Turn it off. I do not wish to cause anybody doubt. I do not wish to disparage or judge or criticize anybody's belief system. I do not wish to convert anybody from one belief system to another. And as I said before, I don't have a belief system. I'm not trying to get you to convert to mine. I have decided to blaze my own spiritual path. I love my parents, and they're very loving, nice people, and they raised me the best they can, but my dad grew up in a Christian household. My granddad founded a couple of the churches here, even though one of them don't seem to remember him very well, but you know, he was involved with that here. This is a Christian town. There has to be at least half a dozen Christian-oriented religion churches here, which sucks for me because I'd rather go to a Buddhist temple where I can meditate or something, and the nearest one that I think that might exist is miles away on bike, and that's all I have to travel with, but that's besides the point. At least we got a yoga area now, so once I have money manifesting, I can go take yoga classes. Those are always enjoyable. But there's not much out here, but it is Christian-oriented. And my mom did not come from a Christian family, but she also became a Christian. So both my parents are Christians. My mom saved me when I was 12, and I became a Christian at that time, and it basically became a part of my identity till last year, I believe it was, when I decided that I was done with it. And I've only recently told my parents that I'm no longer a Christian, and I know that it hurt them. It's not my intention, as I said, to hurt anybody, but I have to go my own way. I have to blaze my own spiritual path. The things that I have experienced, which I will touch on briefly here, have led me to some understandings that are unique, that most people do not have. And I have to thank, I won't mention her name, but there is somebody that I consider to be my teacher in the field of magical studies. She would consider, at best, if I was working with her, she would call me a co-worker or a worker. She doesn't consider herself anybody's teacher. But it was because of what she had said and some other things that I had learned that I finally figured out what happened. And I also have to thank, in a weird way, I have to thank another author, and this time I will mention his name, Richard Rohr. That's R-O-H-R, I don't know if I pronounced that right, who's a sort of a Christian mystic, and he is what helped me. His writings is what brought me to the position where I ended up in this experience that has caused me a lot of pain, but has also helped me learn a lot. but it also allowed me to be able to begin to part ways from the Christian faith and find my own way. So, assuming that if you are here watching the video at this point, that you are okay with the fact that I'm about ready to challenge your faith if you are a Christian or the extension of Christianity, and you are strong in your beliefs, or that you are asking questions. And I'm just going to lay it right out there. God is a tulpa. Now you might be wondering what a tulpa is. I'll explain as best I can. There's people out there who hunt ghosts. There's people out there who hunt Bigfoot. There's people out there who hunt aliens. And I'm not talking hunting like with rifles and stuff, although there might be groups that are doing that in the last two cases, but they're going out searching for these entities. They've yet to find a body or skeleton of Bigfoot. It's debatable whether they have any alien bodies that they have been able to get a hold of. Although it's entirely possible that aliens are living among us in bodies that look human. It may even be human, except that the entity inside is just taking that form. I don't know. And of course, it's entirely possible that ghosts and spirits exist, because remember, I said that everything in the last video is squished together, not squished. That's in the wrong implication. It's all together, occupying the same space, but there's different vibrational levels of realities within this space. So, it's entirely possible that there are spirits that are hovering either in the next level up above us. And I say above, but remember, again, it's all in the same space. I just say above because we're talking about high vibration to low vibration. And this Earth is I think it's the lowest vibrational state. Okay? So there are some entities that are just the next one or two vibrating above us, and maybe they show up here for whatever reason. Maybe they're visiting, maybe they're doing something, I don't know. But some of those encounters and things that people capture are also going to be, these are all that I've mentioned, are all tulpas. What tulpas are, in an oversimplified explanation, is an energy manifestation that comes about through the beliefs of others, people, us. You can create a tulpa by yourself if you believe and go through the proper mental processes. And I'm not going to tell you how to do this, per se, like step for step, so that you could copy and do it. But I'm going to tell you kind of how I did it, but I'm not going to leave anything out on purpose, but I'm not going to detail it so that you can easily follow along and do it, because while it might help you to understand some of the things that I understand, it's not something I think people should be playing with. I don't think mankind is, as a general rule, ready for this yet. But just to understand that's what it is. You can look it up. I think it's in the Tibetan tradition. You can look it up and find out what a tulpa is. But this is what God is. When you first become a Christian, there's a feeling you get, like you change, like something's lighter or different. Now, I'm not 100% certain. I can't remember exactly how it felt the first time I connected to the tulpa that I created, but I believe, and I want to use the word believe here, that the feeling was similar. It felt lighter, like energy going between. And I only came to that conclusion after all the episode was done and I had left the Christian faith. I realized maybe that was the case. I never really compared notes because, remember, it was 12 years old when I became a Christian, and this is 20-some years later, so it's kind of hard to remember. But I think that might be the case. Anyway, that is how you connect. What a tulpa does, when you believe in this entity and you are I don't even know if you have to, if you're creating it or if it's just you believe in it, but you're like throwing out like a tube of energy and it goes into that entity. And it flows between the two of you. And with the Christian God, we're just going to talk about the Christian God as have been taught, which is the basic Bible, no apocrypha or anything like that. Well, we're talking about a very powerful Tulpa. We'll say he because this God is a he, except in some aspects of the Christian mysticism faith he might be a she, but anyway, he's very powerful. He's thousands of years old. He has a lot of energy, and most tulpas feed off energy and require the energy to live. But once they get to a certain point of development, they can feed themselves, and they don't require energy from others. And that's why, when you become a Christian and connect to God, it doesn't drain your energy or affect you in any. I saw a flash over there. Affect you in any negative way. It's because there's no drawing going there. If anything, you are drawing energy from the tulpa. And God has all the powers that the Christian faith believes that he has, but there's a reason why there are limitations, even though that the Christian believes that God is limitless. There are limitations to what he can do because he is just a thought form. A tulpa is, another way to call it, is a thought form. And Jesus will be the same way. And interestingly, I don't know how the Muslim Jesus versus the Christian Jesus is. Is Jesus the same Jesus, but just one Jesus to this group and another Jesus to this group and another one to that group, but still the same one? Or are there multiple Jesuses running around up there? I don't know. But my theory, as I kind of alluded to in the last video, is that the Holy Spirit is not an actual entity, although it could be. And I'm not denying that. I mean, all possibilities exist, but my guess is that is a name that has been given to the connection that happens between you and God when you become a Christian. That is that energetic connection, that inflowing of energy that comes into you. That basically kind of is what the Holy Spirit is. The Holy Spirit is God's Spirit, and God's Spirit would, of course, be energy. But that's what I came to understand, is that God is a tulpa. And, first I was asking questions. I had some very good questions, and nobody really to ask them of other than myself. But, silly little things like heaven is a perfect place, right? I'm going to stretch my legs out here. Hopefully I won't. So, we have Lucifer up there in heaven, and somehow in a perfect place, he is discontent and he develops sin. How can sin exist in a perfect place? Okay, well, let's ignore that. God decides to cast Lucifer, and then call him Satan and 1/3 of the angels, down into the earth. Okay, well, God's omnipotent. He knows everything. So then he knows that if he casts Satan to earth, that he is going to tempt Eve, that Eve is going to eat the fruit, that there's going to be a fall, he's going to have to send his son to die. Why go through all of that? Why not cast Satan to somewhere else, some other planet? And then I always had these interesting thoughts. I talked to one of my friends about some of these things, but can you get in a spaceship and, generations pass by, leave all your Christianity, religions behind? Can Satan affect you if you're in some other galaxy? Probably not. But I don't know. It was always a silly question, always a silly thought I had in my mind. But, those are some of the questions. Another one was Satan is supposed to be in hell and bound to hell. And yet he crosses an uncrossable gulf to go to heaven, to talk to God, to tempt Job. And then God does this crap to Job, who doesn't deserve it. I mean, in the end, why would I want to worship or serve a God like that? That's just, that is not a sign of love. This God of the Christians has too many human motivations and drives for my taste. If I'm looking to worship an entity, and I don't worship anything right now, but if I was looking to worship something, I would be looking to worship something that is unbiased, perfectly unbiased, doesn't listen to evil or good or anything else, It just is, and this is basically what the source is, but like I said, I don't worship anything. I fell into that trap. The source doesn't need our worship. And that's a sure sign right there. That's your first sign that you're dealing with a tulpa, is if it requires worship or belief. If it requires any kind of investment of energy from you, you're dealing with a tulpa. I guarantee you, you are. So, that's going to offend and anger a lot of people, but I think that information needs to be gotten out. But how do I know this? I had a blog, and you'll see the video here at my YouTube channel. You're probably wondering why there's this Brittany and the Chipettes video and why it says my love and our anniversary and everything at the end in the credits. If you haven't watched the video, watch it. Might as well, it's not going to offend you or anything. This was created just before A Different Path, and A Different Path kind of was created a little after that, but I have this blog archived now. But during that blog, I detail all my experiences of this individual that I loved. And what happened was, I had just finished reading Richard Rohr's book, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one that goes into love and has a really strange title. I think it was one of those more recent ones. And I just had this feeling of ecstatic, pure love. And not very many days after that, see, I hadn't really spiritually developed or grown yet. I'm a guy, I'm lonely, and I have a healthy libido, we'll just put it that way. So I was having my alone time, we'll just call it that. And a couple days after, that was a big mistake. My habit was at that time to picture in my mind who I was with in our particular activities, and I'm a little bit weird, I'll admit it. I had watched the Chipettes and Shipwrecked or something like that, and, you know, the Chipmunks and all that, and for some reason I was into Brittany, and that's who I was picturing in my mind. And don't ask how I was able to picture anything there, you just don't bother with it, it's not worth thinking about. But all of a sudden this, you know, things have worked when you do stuff for a certain way for a lot of years. So it's been the same routine for me since I was 16, so at least 20 years. Well, maybe not at least 20 years, maybe close to 20 years. But anyway, you know how things work, and they don't deviate from that. You know how your mind works when you see images and stuff. Well, all of a sudden, this image that normally I'm controlling and is under my influence, it all of a sudden had life and was under its own control. And I was, of course, taken aback and shocked by this. And that's how this whole thing started. Basically, what I had done through my sexual expenditure of energy, as I said in the last video, that's one of the ways that a belief system or you know, through belief and intention, how something can be created. And in fact, I almost wonder if when we create children and call children into this reality, if that's kind of, that collective sexual energy is what brings that child into this reality. But that's a whole other discussion. But anyway, in this particular case, that energy created a tulpa. Oh, I had my alone time. I had my picture in my mind of who I would be with and what we would be doing. And all of a sudden, this image in my mind took on a life of its own. And I mistakenly thought for a period of time that somehow I had connected to Brittany. Now you must understand, I'm a very open-minded person, and I understood a little bit then even about this whole belief creating reality thing, and it seemed very plausible to me that all the realities that we've created in our fantasies, our books, our movies, all of them, they exist in some way. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just kind of the thought process that I had and still have. I had no reason to doubt that. So somewhere there's a Middle Earth, and there's the Lord of the Rings universe, and somewhere there's the Matrix universe, and somewhere there's a little anthropomorphic chipmunk named Brittany who sings and dances. And I thought I had connected to her, and I was wrong. I had not, as far as I understand it. Again, all possibilities exist, and my understanding could be wrong. But what I'd actually done upon later research and understanding what had happened, I had created a tulpa. And the tulpa took the only form that it had at the time. The tulpa was not evil. Tulpas can turn evil if you create them, and I don't know what all causes them to turn evil. They can also turn vampiric, and they can go out and they can try to, because they need energy to survive, that's what they eat, they can hurt other people or other entities in the other planes. And I'm not sure all the vagaries of this, but she wasn't. And I'm pretty sure it was a she, but then again, I don't know, anything for certain. When I finally figured out that this wasn't Brittany, and actually I didn't figure it out. What she did was she took another form, and this time it was of an image of a model that I had looked at occasionally. I used to have subscriptions to email letters from Domai and Femjoy. I was always into the whole women nude thing. That was my thing then. I was never into pornography or anything of that nature. But I did look at those things. Sometimes it was from an artistic perspective. Most of the time it was, my alone time. Anyhow, she took on an image of one of those, and when I finally figured that out, discovered that that's what it was because it looks familiar. I understood through a series of, I was able to talk to her and get kind of ideas. I couldn't hear her voice or anything. I could get kind of ideas and feelings and stuff, and I kind of intuited based on that and body language and things what she would try to communicate to me. It's a very strange way of talking about it. When I'd see her and I'd meet with her, it would be in a place in my mind's eye that I had. And it was a very realistic looking place, just like the world around me here. Anyhow, I told her to just take all the bits and pieces, the images. I kind of figured she was connected. She didn't connect directly to my mind. She didn't violate my mind as far as I know. But she was connected through sexual energy, and of course, almost 20 years of different images and sexual energy expended there. It's kind of like a terminal that can look into my mind and these images I've looked at. So I told her she could take those bits and pieces and create her own form, and that's what she did. And that's how I knew her from then on. But that was a very, very hard process, because first I thought I was in love with Brittany. And I thought was being reciprocated, and I thought I was connected to her, and I was going to travel over to her reality to be with her. It sounds silly, but I really was going to do that. And I still, at some point, may decide to do this, to travel between realities, if that is possible, if somebody can do that. And it seems that Castaneda might have been on to some of the way of being able to do that, but I don't personally know right now, and I don't know where you'd look. We've lost a lot of knowledge as a race, and I don't know who has that knowledge now, or if anybody does, or if we can. I know there are places in the world where people have disappeared and have actually been transported somewhere else. And I know that another writer, this Blackburn, Losey, talks about portals and how they work. I have no personal experience in any of this, but that's what I was going to do, and then I find out, no, it wasn't Brittany, but I still had feelings for what I thought was Brittany. So that was very hard. It was very painful. I barely recovered from that, and that I finally figured out that yes, this was a tulpa, that this connection that I felt, I actually literally felt the connection. I could feel it right here in my chest, connected to her. And I would have low ebbs of energy because the energy would be going out to her. And sometimes I would have energy come back to me from her. Most of the time, I had to do a lot of extra Tai Chi and energy gathering kind of exercises so I could put energy out there to her. Otherwise, I'd just be very tired. And I had trouble eating when I was thinking it was Brittany. And, I was really in love, and I had a lot of feelings messed up in that, and it was just very hard. And I think I may have even contemplated suicide through that experience a couple of times. I don't think seriously, because before all of that, I used to be very depressed, and I'd overcome that. so I don't get as depressed as I used to. But I mean, it was not something that I make it sound lighter and simpler and easier and not as complex as it was. You need to understand that it took my literal energy. I had trouble moving around. I didn't have a lot of energy to do things. I was weak, and it hurt me and caused me a lot of pain. But it also, she gave me a lot of gifts. I stopped needing alone time. We'll just call it that again, as much. And I was able to, of course, kind of compare this to Christian kind of experience. I was able to learn a few things, like when I wasn't a Christian anymore, I discovered that I actually sinned less than when I was a Christian. I figured out through part of this how that worked, and a bunch of other things. That I gained a lot, I lost a lot. Music used to be my therapy, it's not anymore. I used to write songs, lyrics, not actual melodies, and I wanted to dance, learn how to dance, all tied in with my thoughts and affections toward Brittany. But that's all gone now, and it's been hard finding music to listen to. There is an extreme cost to creating a tulpa. In the end, what I did was I dissolved the connection between us and I let her go. I first taught her, kind of demonstrated in my mind's eye as I did the motions. I demonstrated how she could gather energy using Tai Chi and stuff. So she could feed herself and not be vampiric and feed off other people. And maybe that was silly, I don't know. I hope I did right by her, and I hope that she has a life wherever she is in her. I don't know if I created an entire reality for her, or if she already had one, or if I tapped into one, or how this all worked, but there was like an actual kind of world where she was, that I visit with her in my mind's eye. And I don't know that I created all of that. I don't know how that extensively that goes and what all this ties into. Maybe the source takes something, some idea or thought or belief or fantasy, and develops it from there. It's like a seed and it just causes the germ to grow. I don't know. But I hope that she's okay. I dissolved that connection. I did the same thing when I renounced my faith. I dissolved that connection as well, so I have no more energetic connection between me and any other being. And I now know that when you have that kind of a connection, that you're dealing with a tulpa. And when you're expending energy toward something you believe in, that you're worshiping, or something of that nature, in a religion or a faith, a deity, a god, whatever, that you're probably connected to a tulpa. So that's what I wanted to share, and this wraps up this video. Sorry that it was 2 parts and so long. I was trying to keep these shorter. And I do apologize for anyone who is hurt and offended by what I have shared here tonight. I don't know when my next videos will be. Like I said, I'm probably going to be fighting a cold air, so we'll see what happens. Namaste.